I'm now going to welcome to the stage, on the stage already, a dear friend of mine, a dear colleague who will now have a conversation with the Honourable Minister, and I'm absolutely delighted to have here with us the CNN anchor and emerging markets editor from based in Abu Dhabi, but indeed of global importance, and he is now going to conduct a conversation with the Honourable Minister. Please give a very, very warm welcome to John Defterios.
I thought I'd already sung for my supper.
Very good. I'd love, we have something in common, by the way, Your Excellency. He likes a highlighter pen, and I left mine in my bag. So while he was up on stage, I borrowed it. I hope that's okay, because I took a series of notes. I had questions before we came in. I'm going to keep this to 10, 12 minutes, because your speech was comprehensive and really refreshing. I haven't heard a foreign minister in the last decade that makes the coupling between the challenges of geopolitical nature and the link between finance, the economy, and development. I mean, it's extraordinary that you put the two together. Very briefly, because of time, you talked about leveraging Pakistan's geopolitical and geographic position because of its always had attention geopolitically, but geographically, there's an interesting study I would invite our audience to look at. Danny Quah of London School of Economics did a study suggesting that the center of gravity for GDP in the 1980s was between the US and the UK, just on basic per capita GDP. In 2008, it was in Finland. By 2050, that center of gravity will be right in between Pakistan and China. So your ability to leverage this window, as you're suggesting. Now, one of the things I looked up while you were speaking, I put the ranking of Pakistan, and before I could even put the word corruption in, it said corruption. I filled it in for Google for me. 2017 was the best year in a decade, ranked 117 out of 180. Back in 2012, it was 139 out of 174. And this is before this government came in. So there's been some progress. How do you build the momentum? Because you said how important it is to root out corruption. I know the efforts by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet to do so. How do you truthfully say we can turn the corner here, and you talked about FDI, to bring in FDI, to say we have changed Pakistan for good. It is the Naya Pakistan. How do you do so? I'm going to ask your answers to be less than a minute so we can get 5 or 6 in.
To attract investment, to begin with, we got to have a peaceful environment. So we're going to work very, very hard to have good neighborly relations with India, Afghanistan, Iran, and you name it, in the region. So that gives confidence to people, that gives confidence to investors. We need to fix our institutions. We need to depoliticize bureaucracy in this country. And we have to pick the right people for the right job. Political nepotism and, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. That has to come to an end. I keep telling the Prime Minister, we've got to lead by example. And when we talk about accountability, the accountability should begin from here, from within the PTI. And if there's someone that is identified as corrupt, as a money launderer, a person who has misused a taxpayer's money in PTI, sack him and sack him immediately. Set an example. Set an example for others that you mean business. That's one way of doing it. And then restructuring. Restructuring government institutions and attracting capable people. There is no shortage of good people in this country. Pakistan is full of very talented people. They've run away. They're shy. Today, the best talent is no longer coming into the civil service, and that scares me. Who will govern Pakistan? The governors of Pakistan are the civil services of Pakistan. And if we do not have the best talent in the civil service, our governance will suffer. So we have to attract people back into the civil service. Consistency of policies so that there's investor confidence.
Okay. There's a big sigh of relief when Prime Minister Khan stepped back and took the high road here, didn't escalate with India. Realistically, how do you reboot relations and get stability where the investors suggest I can count on the fact that these two neighbors won't attack each other and that terrorism's not part of the equation anymore? Is it realistic to think so under the new leadership in Pakistan and a prime minister who's facing elections in April? And should we expect surprises as a result of those elections?
The message is very clear from Pakistan. We want peace. We want peace because it is in our enlightened self-interest to have peace. We want peace because we want to fix the economy of this country. We want to fix institutions. We want, if the people of Pakistan have reposed confidence in us, we feel, and I can feel, and my political vision says that in 1 decade, that means 2 terms of parliament, we can turn this country around. And this will be a happening, this can become a happening place. And for that, we need peace with neighbors, and India as a neighbor, an important neighbor, 1. 2, when you talked about the geostrategic position, look where Pakistan is placed. China, the 2nd largest economy in the world and growing, and India, huge market, huge market. Just look at the possibilities of opening up trade with India. I think Pakistan can benefit. I mean, right now, it might not be very popular to say this, because of this sort of the jingoism that I see on the other side, but it makes economic sense. So there's a lot that can be done, and this government has an important, people have attached hope. People have attached hope to this government. We cannot afford to disappoint them. If we disappoint them, history will not forgive us.
Well, is this incursion, thank you, and we'll hold the applause to the end because of our time, although people like what you're saying.
I missed the most important element of your question, terrorism.
Yes.
Obviously, we need to address it.
Well, the criticism is that, for example, with Shah Mahmood, that you're not doing enough.
To begin with, let the world know that Pakistan knows what terrorism is. We've had 70,000 casualties. Our economy has suffered more than $128 billion. And what did we receive in assistance? Well, we are thankful for that, but nowhere close to what we have lost in economic terms. Missed opportunities because of terrorism. We need to address it. This is a global phenomena, this is a regional phenomena, and it is not Pakistan specific. People are talking about acts of terrorism, state terrorism in Indian-occupied Kashmir. Look at that. Why do people overlook the atrocities, the human rights violations that are taking place? We can't overlook them, and we should not overlook them, but we will address. We have, on the kinetic side, the Pakistan Army has done a great job in cleansing our areas, clearing the tribal belt, and on the political side, I can tell in this program, the nation of Pakistan, there was a national consensus built after the horrific attack in Peshawar on the Army Public School. Our children were killed, and that was a watershed. And that gave rise to a new political consensus and evolved a national action plan. Let the people of Pakistan know that the last government was reluctant, were hesitant to go all the way in implementing the national action plan. Here is the government of Prime Minister Imran Khan that intends to implement the national action plan. And let me also give another important news on this platform. With the permission of the Prime Minister today, I'm going to write to all parliamentary leaders of Pakistan. And I'm going to invite them to the Foreign Office to come and sit with me. And please, we have agreed on the national action plan. There's a national consensus. You're all signatory to it. Nawaz Sharif is, Asif Ali Zardari is, Fazlur Rahman Saab is, Asfandiar Wali is, Achak Zai is, we all, Imran Khan is, we all signatories. Come and sit with us and let's chart a way forward how to deal with this menace of terrorism.
Great, thank you very much. I'm cognizant of time. Three key questions. Do you need the U.S. involved anymore? President Trump has suggested Pakistan's not doing enough. What are we getting from Pakistan, particularly on terrorism? $33 billion of aid since 2001, $2 to $3 billion a year. With the relationship with China, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia coming to the country, UAE fully engaged, as you said in your remarks. Do you care whether the U.S. is engaged with Pakistan or not?
Yes, we do. I think U.S., despite what I know what the public opinion is, the U.S. is not the most popular country in Pakistan today. But the U.S. is an important global power. Let's not be forgetful of that. It's a military power, it's an economic power, and it's a technological power. It is in Pakistan's interest to have a good bilateral relationship with the US. And it is one of my objectives as Foreign Minister to reset this bilateral relationship. And I think I can see a gradual shift, taking place. It'll take time. It'll take time. We'll have to bridge the trust deficit. And it exists on both sides, by the way. We also have a trust deficit. But we can overcome that and build an important relationship and stay engaged with the US.
It was interesting to me, it stood out because I'm based in Abu Dhabi, as you know. $6 billion of financial pledges from Saudi Arabia, $20 billion of investment in the pipeline. What's the quid pro quo? There's two very big concerns that Saudi Arabia wants you to serve as an agitator against Iran and take a very hard line. Number two, that there could even be a transfer of nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia so it can stand toe-to-toe in the medium term with Iran. Let's dispel both these big fears.
Simple, clear answer, none of that. None of that. Pakistan is a responsible nuclear power, and we are committed not to proliferate, and we will not. We are very clear. What we have in place is a defensive, credible deterrence.
But I'm thinking about the transfer of technology to Saudi Arabia specifically. This is a Middle East concern.
Nothing of the sort. Nothing of the sort is being talked about. One, and the other is being dragged into a conflict with the neighbor. They understand, and we have to explain it to them, and we have. They have issues with Iran. Pakistan can play a role of bridging misunderstandings. We cannot be party. Iran is a neighbor, and an important neighbor we have to coexist with.
Okay, final question I have for you. Unlucky 13 bailouts with the International Monetary Fund. You said you're not eager to go back to the 1980s and go back and forth and continue to say we promise to do reform. You have cash injections from China, Saudi Arabia, UAE, stabilize your foreign reserves. What do you tell the IMF now? This is a neo-Pakistan, a progressive Pakistan, and we will actually reform so we don't come back to the begging bowl yet again. We can leverage this money and do something with it.
The finance minister has said so, and let me quote him. He has said, we are talking to the IMF, but we want better terms from the IMF. The terms that they were offering were very harsh. We want them to be, we want friendlier terms. We want to go to the IMF with the message that Pakistan, hopefully near Pakistan, is coming to the IMF for the last time. And we want to get a package to restore confidence and to attract support from international financial institutions into Pakistan. at the same time fix our economy and our institutions so that we never have to go back to the IMF again.
Great. Thank you very much. Before I hand it over to Etna, it's refreshing to hear foreign ministers with such candor on the most difficult subjects, so I appreciate it. You said that Afsar has a fantastic team. I can't reiterate that more. It's so refreshing to get somebody who's so active along with his team on WhatsApp, shuffling the program to make things work, to bring the foreign investors back to Pakistan. And I was very touched, Ali Akbi, the tribute you gave to your father. It's amazing to see a man who creates such a power, trained a son who's ready to fill the shoes, and to take the time to create a video of such beauty. Nice round of applause because of the work you've all done in the last year. Afsar, thank you very much for the invitation.